As you hear, we are recording this session because after the last session, there's a number of people asked if we could send out the recording. And so certainly if you'd like a recording of this, once it goes through compliance, we'd be happy to send it out, and we'll be also posting it on our YouTube channel. So I'm Rob Tarloff from Paragon Financial Group, and appreciate you guys attending tonight. This is the second one, or actually the third one. We did two on June 5th. One in the morning, one in the evening, and we had an awful lot of people that said, "Oh, would have loved to attend it, but have a conflict that day." So we're redoing it. This is an encore tonight, and we're going to be talking about ChatGPT as well as Microsoft Copilot. So let me just share my screen so we can share the agenda. So as I said, we titled this "Having Fun with ChatGPT." As you'll see, it's a relatively new technology. And it's evolving constantly, and we're certainly, even since the last meeting, we've discovered new things that it can do, or maybe it couldn't do them on June 5th, and it's introduced new features since then. But we're going to begin tonight talking about ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot at a kind of at a helicopter view, talking about some of the differences, and then we're going to go online and take a more in-depth look at what ChatGPT can do and what it can do for you. Also, we want you, there is a Q&A on the bottom. If you have something as we're moving along, you say, "I'd like to ask that question." Certainly let's, put that in there and we'll see what it can do. We got some interesting questions last time. We got some where people said, "I don't think it'll have an answer for this." And it certainly did surprise us that it did. Okay. Anybody know what this is? In fact, use the Q. Diane will be looking at the Q&A, and so if you know what this is, type it in, and let's see if anybody's got it.
Furby.
A Furby.
James says Furby.
This is a Furby, and we're going to see in a minute when the Furby came out. But I can recall when my daughter was young, well, back in the late 80s and 90s, if you were a parent, every year was a torturous adventure to try to get the toy of the year that every kid wanted. Cabbage Patch Dolls, Nintendo, Tickle Me Elmo, and Furby was one of those that my daughter wanted a Furby. And one of my first explorations on the internet was searching for a Furby for sale, which I found. I paid about 3 to 4 times what it would have cost retail. Meanwhile, my sister Lori was in New York City, and she went to FAO Schwartz, and there they were just coming out with a whole bunch of Furbies, and she picked up a Furby, and our search for that year ended up with 2 Furbies. So yep, absolutely, Jane. This is a Furby. This is an iPhone. The reason I put the iPhone on here is anybody who has an iPhone is familiar with Surrey. Surrey, what's the weather outside? Surrey named this tune. A couple of years after that, Amazon came out with Alexa. And Alexa, they had through the years a variety of different vehicles. The Echo Dot, the tower in this sphere, were similar to Surrey. You could ask it questions of the day. Moving on to this, Android, a little later to the game, but they hopped right on, and basically out they came with their "Hey Google," and introduced that. And so when we look at the timeline here, we see that Furby came out in 1998. 13 years later, out came Surrey. It wasn't until over 3 years later that Alexa came out. Hey Google was in May of 2016. And then the 2 new arrivals on the scene were ChatGPT just a little over a year and a half ago in November of 2022. And then thereafter, just over a year ago, Microsoft Copilot came out. And all of these are examples of chatbots, except for Furby. Furby wasn't a chatbot, but had a lot of the characteristics of what a chatbot has. So what's a chatbot? Well, it's either software or hardware that's basically can be text enabled, it can be voice enabled, and it's used to simulate conversation that humans would be using. And many of you have probably used chatbots and didn't even realize it. Many times you visit a site, and it could be Bank of America, it could be some site of some information you're looking for, product information, and up comes a little window that says, "Would you like to have a live chat 24/7?" And I said, "Wow, they got people working 24/7." Well, you find out as you get into it that the chatbot or the person you're chatting with is not a person. It's actually a chatbot, and they've been used for a number of years for customer service, getting information, e-commerce, and the two most recent entries, which we're going to talk about tonight, are ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. There are differences between the two. There are some, as you use them, you'll find one is better for certain things than others. In the beginning, I liked ChatGPT a lot more than Pilot. Now I'm kind of leaning towards Microsoft Copilot. Diane will tell you in the last month or so, she has become a Microsoft Copilot junkie. She's addicted to it. But basically, ChatGPT basically is a platform that gathers information and stores information. It does not have direct access to the internet, although most of the information is in there, is chunks of information that have been loaded in there. It can hold general conversations. It can answer questions from the complex to the simple. The chatbots are designed to interact in a conversational manner. It kind of tries to take the computer out and create human-like text responses. I use it a lot for summarizing articles. I'll see a long article on the internet, and I don't want to sit there and read it. And I'll ask to please summarize. I'll copy and paste it into ChatGPT and say, please summarize this article. If it's still too long, I'll say, please summarize it again. Or I may say, please summarize in 500 words or less. And it'll pull out all the bullet points, the information from in there. I can even say, please rewrite this so that a 8th grader can understand. Please rewrite this so a 70-year-old can understand. And basically, it will simplify it. I use that a lot because in our business and in any business, we tend to, because we use acronyms and technical jargon every day, we tend to talk in that, and people don't know what we're talking about. And so when I send out an email that I want to explain something that's complex, I use ChatGPT to take out all the jargon so that it's more in everyday language. Copilot is a little different in that it does have direct access to the internet. And one of the most important differences there is that the information that you're getting from Copilot is real time. If you want the latest information on a topic, okay, you want to use Copilot. And then you'll see an example later when I ask who won the last 10 NCAA basketball championships. But if you want something that's right up to date, you want to use Copilot. If you're somebody that uses Microsoft 365 products with like Word, that says work, but it's Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, basically it does a great job of integrating. In fact, I was telling Diane today, I discovered we use Microsoft 365 for Outlook. And I was telling her, suddenly I see this little microphone there. And I touch on the microphone, and it goes ding, ding. And I said, "Oh, what was that?" And suddenly on my email, it says, "Oh, what was that?" It's a basically, I can dictate my emails, and I can choose almost any language in the world to dictate. So if I'm sending something to somebody in Germany, I can dictate in English, and it will translate it into German. They have a number of different Chinese languages that could be used for too. So Microsoft Copilot for very current, up-to-date information. But I find that ChatGPT, when you don't need that up-to-date, sometimes gives you a little more detailed information than the other. So I say play around with both. Ask the same questions to each and see if see if you get different presentations or styles on there. Now, as I mentioned, ChatGPT is designed to chat with you, much like a human. You're actually almost creating a human-like conversation. What's really neat is it actually puts things in context. So basically, an example that I saw used was, let's say I tell ChatGPT that I love to garden. Well, later on in conversations that I may be having with ChatGPT, they may use an example of gardening to explain a difficult situation. Just like if your friend knew you were interested in gardening, that topic may come up in the conversations. But I find, and Diane was mentioning, she doesn't even use Google anymore. Because with Google, you got to search through about 20 ads to get down to the first topic down below, and you're constantly having to say move to different things, where this will bring all that information into one place for you. And with Microsoft Pilot, it also gives you the references that you can go right to the reference where they pulled the information off of. I think I covered this without knowing I was moving ahead. As they mentioned the gardening here. As I mentioned, ChatGPT is a vast database with chunks of information text. It actually learns the text that's inputted into it, and it generates responses to your input. One of the things that you cannot do with Copilot or GTP is you can't search for people. Okay, if you say, who is Rob Tarlov, it will tell you they don't know who Rob Tarlov is. Now, it may say, maybe you're thinking of Jessica Tarlov. Now, why would they suggest that? Well, Jessica Tarlov is a distant cousin of mine, who's on one of the national networks, news networks, cable networks. They may say, or maybe you're thinking of Molly Tarlov, who was an actress on the Disney Channel and MTV. Or they may say their father was actually a movie producer. So they may have information on those people because they're public figures, but they do not. At this point, they do not gather or disseminate any information that's of persons. You can't look up phone numbers. You can't look up addresses. It's not going to give you any of that. Let's take a look at a list of sample things that basically can be, and we're going to look at some samples online that I previously input in to ChatGPT. But let's say you're traveling to a certain city and you basically want an itinerary. You're going for 3 days, 5 days, and you say, please create an itinerary for me for my trip to Amsterdam. Sometimes you're going to a city, more and more Sundays aren't much different than anywhere else, but for Europe was far behind us or ahead of us, maybe depending on your perspective, but nothing was open on Sundays. I remember back in the early 90s, Claudia and I and Chris went to Germany, and we were in Cologne, and there was nothing happening in Sunday in Cologne. You just walked around and looked at storefronts that were closed. But you can put in there and say, I'm traveling to such and such. Or what can you do on Sundays? And it'll list for you all the things that are open on Sunday. Let's say you want a poem. Please write a poem about. And we'll look at a poem that I asked them to write about. But maybe you're trying to create a greeting card, verse, and you want a poem that's specific to a person or to a person's hobby. You can ask ChatGPT or Copilot to do that. Help you find a local store or restaurant. Write a thank you note. Convert currency. I mean, I know you can go on Google and you can do it, but it's much easier, especially if you have the app, to simply say, you see an item, you're traveling, it's 100 pounds. How much is 100 pounds in dollars? How much is 100 pounds in pesos? And it will convert the currency for you. As I mentioned before, summarizing articles. Write a speech about a topic. Create a Thanksgiving dinner menu. Let's say you want a post-dinner activity. You're having people over dinner. You want to do something after dinner at home. Gift ideas for a particular subject. We'll look at some examples there. Create the ideal item organism. I remember my niece last year she's in college. She had to invent or create the ideal organism. So she asked ChatGPT, and then she kept asking ChatGPT questions about the information it was given. ChatGPT would say, "What should have this?" And she said, "Well, why is having that important?" And then it would tell her. And then she'd ask another question, and it would just create more and more detail. Draw me a picture of. We're finding Copilot is better for that now than ChatGPT. In the beginning, ChatGPT was better. So if you want an illustration of something, a graphic of something, create an invitation for a special event. So these are just some of the things. I mean, your imagination can just go wild in terms of creating these things. So I'm going to shift shares and go to right onto the internet. So basically, getting onto these things is easy. They now have apps for your phone for both of these, ChatGPT and Copilot. I think that's where Diane's gotten hooked. So I know she's been doing some things with it. So I'm gonna, when we get to that point, ask her to explain what she's doing with the apps at this point. But as you notice here, for a while, Google has had these two symbols here. Okay, the microphone and the camera. And when we log on to these different sites, very easy to log on. And you may want to just write these terms down. When you want to go to Copilot, okay, now you could Google Copilot, but when you want to go to Copilot, type in Bing, which is Microsoft's browser, okay, and it brings you to Bing, okay? And two places now, this is relatively new, but up here it says Copilot. Here, this is part of Copilot where it basically just hasn't taken you to Copilot yet, but you can put the question in. But if you just click up here where it says Copilot, okay, you're in Copilot. Now, the first time that you go into Copilot, it will ask you to register. All it wants is your name and email address. I've never received anything from Copilot. Now, I may have received 10 million emails from some, but I don't think so. But once you log in, register, every time you log in, you're on. So when you go in there, and where's that important is that it keeps a history of your prior questions. So if you want to refer back to find out them. And what I find interesting is, when you Google something, you get ads popping up all over the place for that. If you're playing a game on your phone and you Googled something at Home Depot, you're getting tons of Home Depot ads or Tractor Supply ads. I have not found that experience with Copilot or ChatGPT where I type in something on a subject and suddenly I'm getting tons of ads. So down here is where you would ask your questions. Now, you can notice it says new topic here. Okay, once you type your first question in under the new topic, you can keep typing questions in under that topic. You will reach a point where if you're using a free version, which let me just pause for a minute, you don't need the cost items. The free will give you, the cost items give you a little bit extra here or there. They say faster processing time and things like that. But, don't jump in and say I should get the paid version. Try the free versions, first. The one thing I noticed with Copilot is you can ask more questions about the same topic before you have to create a new topic. But if you're switching topics, always create a new topic. And we'll see that in ChatGPT, where on some of the examples, I did not create a new topic. And so I ended up with multiple topics under the same thing, which means it's a little hard to index them. But basically here, I would just type my question in and we would get the answer. And we'll see how that works when we're doing the practical examples on the ChatGPT. If we go over here, I can just either start typing chat, and you'll see ChatGPT, which is actually chat.openai.com. But if I just start typing chat and I hit enter, I'm into ChatGPT. And very similar, the first time you go in, you need to register. But on the other hand, once you've registered, you'll come in right away as yourself. And you can see here are the things the samples that we're going to open up today. And take a look at previous questions that I asked about. As you can see, this says Sundays in Amsterdam. Now, it didn't originally say Sundays in Amsterdam. You can rename these to the specific topic, so it's easy to refer back to find the information that's in there. So basically, the history for previous 30 days from May, from April, from March, going back February, January 2023. So it keeps them in there for a long period of time. When you rename them, it brings them up to the top of the list. You can also delete ones that you no longer want. So you can go in and hit the delete button and get it out of here, or you can archive it so it's not in your current events type of menu over here, and you just keep the things maybe you want more that you're currently working on. But as I mentioned before, Claudia last year was going to Amsterdam, so I went in and said, "Plan my Amsterdam trip." Okay, and basically it said, "Here's a generalized itinerary for a 5-day trip to give you a starting point." And basically it outlines the 5 days. And when you go to Amsterdam from the U.S., you're usually checking into your hotel in the morning because the plane lands early in the day. So basically, it says arrive, check in at your hotel, start your visit by exploring the Dutch art and history at this museum. Then go to the Van Gogh Museum, have lunch at the seafood bar. Then go to Vondelpark, relax at Amsterdam's most famous park, and then dinner at Food Hall. And in each day, it tells you what to do, where to eat, what to do at night. And so it plans out your 5-day trip. This spring, she went to Haarlem. I didn't know there was a Haarlem in the Netherlands, but she loved Haarlem. She found Haarlem, she liked that much better than Amsterdam. Still a pretty big city, especially by Connecticut standards, but more of an old world type of city. And so I went in and said, plan my 3-day trip in Haarlem. I spelled Haarlem wrong, but the ChatGPT was very polite and didn't say, "Hey, you misspelled it." And they said Haarlem, often spelled Harlem. Well, it's always spelled Harlem, except for when Rob Tarlow spells it. But it politely corrected my spelling. Now, unlike the Amsterdam trip where they gave specific restaurants to eat at, it said have breakfast at one of the local cafes around the square, grab lunch at a nearby eatery. So I went down on the same topic, and I went down below and said, what are some good restaurants in Haarlem? I could have said, what are some good restaurants around the square? What are some restaurants along the such and such canal? And basically, when I just said, what are some good restaurants, it gave me, I think, 8 different restaurants, in town there that I could go eat at. Claudia also told me under this additional tips, she took this tip where it says Haarlem is well connected by public transport, so consider purchasing a OV chip cart for convenience in traveling around the city and to nearby places. And she said it was great. And so she took that little hint that was there. They talked about the weather. You may ask, well, because they went between Thanksgiving and Christmas, what's the weather? Oh, I'm sorry, they went in the spring to Haarlem. What's the weather like in Haarlem in April? And basically, it would give you an idea of what the weather was like. You go to Pilot and say, what's the upcoming weather going to be like? I asked it to create a poem. And as many of you know, and you can see behind me, I collect Santa Clauses. So I asked it to write a poem about that, playing Santa Claus. And it wrote a pretty long poem. If I thought it was too long, I could have come back and said, can you shorten the poem? In the quiet, I'm not going to read the whole poem, but, it begins with, in the quiet of night when all are asleep, a figure in red does softly creep. Beneath the twinkling holiday lights, he tiptoes around in the still of the night. A jolly old man with a snowy white beard, but under the guise of secrets endeared. For this Santa special, he's dear to my heart. He's dad in a suit playing the part. Then it kind of finishes up down below. For in his disguise, there's more than just cheer. It's love and devotion that brings him here. So here's to the fathers who don the red suit, playing Santa with hearts resolute. A hero in daylight, a legend by night. In the spirit of giving, he shines ever bright. Thank you, dear Dad, for the magic you weave. Merry Christmas to all, and with love we believe. And so say you want to put that on a greeting card to your father at Christmas time. Basically, it was as simple as say, please write a poem. And about 15 seconds later, I had the poem. Let's say you get, and here's an example where I got 2 things on the same. But basically, actually, I got more than 2 things on the same. But basically, I asked it to write a thank you note for the pink sweater I received. Now, I could have said pink sweater I received for my birthday, for Christmas. I just said for the sweater I received. And basically it says, Dear Jim and Jane, just want to express my heartfelt thanks for the beautiful pink sweater you gifted me. I mean, I don't use the word gifted me. I would have edited that and say you gave me for my birthday. It's absolutely gorgeous, and the color is so cheerful and bright. Every time I wear it, I think of your kindness and thoughtfulness. Thank you for bringing warmth to my days, both literally and figuratively. Love, Nana. So you could ask it to write a thank you note. Let's say you having trouble for gift ideas and you have a friend, relative that's loves gardening. So all I said was gift ideas for a gardener. And it gives me about 10 different gift ideas: plant subscription box, quality gardening tools, heirloom seeds, outdoor weather station, decorative planters, a bee house, a compost bin. And then I said, well, that first item is plant subscription box. Where can I get those? Okay, you can find some plant subscription boxes at various online retailers. The Sill, Bloomscape, Horty, Plant of the Month from Harry. I thought Harry and David were Fruit of the Month. I didn't know they also did Plants of the Month, but apparently they do. I also asked, since Claudia is a dressage rider, gifts for a female dressage rider. And basically, it category practical gear and accessories, training and horse care, personalized and sentimental, tech and gadgets, comfort and relaxation, unique experiences, gift cards. Gift cards to favorite equestrian store. I could go back in and say, what are some popular equestrian stores? I could ask for more detail here too. Where can you get this? Where can you get that? Where can you get a helmet camera? There. Diane, as I mentioned earlier, Diane, you had an experience about a month ago with getting a gift for your grandson.
I did. I wasn't sure exactly what to get. He's 4 years old. He's very mechanical. So I just asked Copilot, give me a list of STEM toys for a 4-year-old boy. And it gave me a list. I clicked on the different items that sounded interesting, and it just brought me right to the websites. And like Rob said, which I really like, is I never saw anything about it again afterwards. It's not like I went on something and all these feeds started popping in. And it literally took me, if I say 15 minutes to find a toy for him, something for him. I want to just get him one big item. And I know it's not even something I would have even thought of. And usually I'm researching, these different websites that I know they do this and they do that, and the different age websites with the different age criterias. And it could take an hour before I find something. This took me, I don't even think it took me 15 minutes from the time I put it in to the time I gave it my credit card. It was very, very, very quick. And I am addicted to it. It's just, I've got it on my phone. I do everything with it on my phone.
What kind of toys were those? It just STEM toys?
They call them STEM. Rob, you're getting quieter and quieter. They call them STEM toys. It's cognitive development, like highly cognitive development toys. And so yeah, and it's impressive, because I actually searched like 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old to see, and I thought, wow, this really builds on itself too. So really, really, I was very impressed with that.
Great, thank you. I mentioned before when we were doing the thank you notes that on the same thing I had asked, can you create an invitation for a holiday trivia contest? Okay, so you're invited to a holiday trivia night. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Get ready for a jolly good time. Join us for an evening filled with festive fun and friendly competition at our annual holiday trivia contest. When, where, what to wear, holiday cheer. Bring your holiday spirit, your thinking cap, as we challenge each other with questions about holiday traditions, music, movies, and more. Prizes will be awarded to the trivia champions. So basically, if you're have an event, a graduation party, something, just go in and say, please create an invitation, and it will create an invitation. I think I also on one of these, oh, that one they couldn't. Let me pop down. Oh, let's say, for instance, at first I said, what is the theory? What is the theory of relativity? So it prints out this or creates this long thing all about that. I went back in and I said, please create this so an eighth grader could understand. And as I mentioned, for a 70-year-old. And what I found interesting was the level of information wasn't that much different in terms of detail and kind of dumbing it down as you speak to take all the scientific jargon out. But the eighth grader, they use different, they use the jargon of an eighth grader versus a 70-year-old. So even though the info was the same, it was presented like an eighth grader talks or writes, or a 70-year-old would talk or write. It was generational, which I found really, really interesting. I don't know if anybody's ever been asked to write a eulogy. So I went in and I asked it to write a eulogy. And so what I asked was, please write a eulogy for Rob Tarloff, who was married to Claudia, had 2 kids, Chris and Kendall. He was a financial planner, secretary of the Meriden Rotary Club for 40 years, and chairman of the board of finance in Colchester. So here it wrote the eulogy. Gathered here today with heavy hearts to honor the memory of Rob Tarloff, a man who touched so many lives with kindness, dedication, unwavering commitment to friends, family, and community. Journey by life through life was marked by love, service, enduring legacy that will remain in our hearts forever. Couldn't have written it better myself. But Rob was a devoted husband to Claudia, and then it talks about their love story and the cornerstones. He cherished every moment with Claudia, together with the creative family of warmth, laughter, abundance of love. And then it talks about Rob as a father. Now I may have wanted to mention, up in the beginning, or I may have said, add right down here. I say add something about Rob coaching soccer and baseball. And then it talks about professionally, he was a financial planner dedicated to his career to help others achieve their dreams and secure their futures. His expertise, honesty, and genuine care for clients set him apart in his field. Rob's commitment to his work was not just a job, it was a vocation, a way to make meaningful impact in the lives of those he served. Then it goes on to talk about the Rotary Club. For 40 years, secretary of the Rotary Club, role he embraced with enthusiasm, dedication. This I found interesting too. Rob believed in the power of service above self. Service above it, Rotary, that's Rotary's tagline slogan, service above self. They incorporated that into the eulogy. It talks about working with the Rotary Club. In addition to his Rotary Club, Board of Finance in Colchester, where his leadership and vision were instrumental in guiding the financial decisions that shaped the community, approached this role with the same integrity and dedication that defined every aspect of his life. Today, as we remember, Rob goes on. And you could add stuff about how, if you're writing something about, I have to write a eulogy about Rob Tarloff, name the family members, the hobbies, the different positions they held, and it will create, a eulogy that needs relatively little tweaking. It embellishes every aspect of the life, which is what a eulogy does there. It also has a sense of humor, because what I asked here was asked it, how much is 1 + 1 equal to? And it said 1 + 1 = 2. So I replied back and said, my wife says it's 3. Well, it sounds like your wife might be joking, or perhaps alluding to something metaphorical. Mathematically, 1 + 1 definitely equals 2, but in conversation, people sometimes use numbers creatively or symbolically. So I wrote back and I said, my wife is always right. Sounds like you're taking a wise approach to marital harmony. If your wife says it's 3, maybe in your household, it's best to go with that. Sometimes the math at home works a little differently. So I thought that was, the little bit of humor in there. I thought that was really great. You can plan a Thanksgiving dinner. It suggested menus. You can go in and say, oh, I like having deviled eggs. Give me a recipe. Oh, here's a vegetarian option. Maybe I want to create a vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. I have a daughter that's on the keto diet, so everything's about net carbs. And I have a son that he's not a vegan, he's a vegetarian, but he's also glucose intolerant and gluten. So, how do you create a gluten-free, glucose-free vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner? And it would give you suggested, vegetarian options and other things, in there. It even, in addition to the menu, it even tells you what you do a week before, a few days before, the day before, the morning of, hours before, suggestions for tablecloths, napkins, centerpieces, place setting, entertainment, light background music, have a selection of games and activities can involve all guests, such as a card games or a Thanksgiving trivia quiz. I asked it for, give me some ideas in Central Florida for nature adventures. And it listed, I don't know, 6, 8, 7 different nature adventures in Central Florida. I wanted to send a message to one of the people that works for me that it's easier for him reading, and he speaks good English, but he doesn't read good English. And so what I did was I said, can you translate this to Spanish? Can you fix a tractor tire today? So it gave me, wait, as a regular, even though I took 5 years of Spanish, my accent and pronunciation is horrible. But can you fix the tire tractor today? Boy, I knows today. Tractor, I knows tractor. But I could do that in any language. Ask it to translate back or forward. I mentioned before you could basically ask it to create illustrations. And so when it created an illustration, I was asking for, well, these were other illustrations we're asking for. Get to that first one with so I asked, Irene in my office has a French bulldog. And so I asked it to create a web page banner of a couple, walking a French bulldog. Well, I didn't want a young couple because Irene and Peter are a lot older than these people. And their French bulldog, I know, is not beige color like this. So I went back and I said, asked them to create a French bulldog of an older couple walking a black French bulldog. So now I got the older couple walking the black French bulldog. Then I found out that so I still had the black, and basically I wanted an older white hair man and an older dark hair couple. I still didn't get the dark hair couple, and this is a very loose leash on this French bulldog. But I go back in, and now I got my dark haired woman. For some reason, they gave me 2 bulldogs, French bulldogs, and I think this is when I found out that it wasn't a black, it was a brindle. So I asked for a brindle with a dark-haired woman. Since she's Portuguese, I asked it to create an older white-haired man and an older dark-haired Portuguese woman walking one, because the other one had 2 dogs, brindle French bulldog. And then I asked for a different neighborhood. Then I asked to do the same thing for American neighborhood. The funny thing was that I could not get it to give me a white-haired man without a beard. And I kept saying, create it without a beard. Then I'd say a beardless older gentleman. I still got that white beard. So finally I said, do you know what beardless means? Certainly. And it went on to describe what beardless meant. So I said, well, then create me a photo of a beardless man. I got the bearded man. I could not get rid of that bearded man. I love brain teasers. So I said, please, can you find me a brain teaser? And so it gave me a brain teaser. I worked on it. I think I solved it, but I wasn't sure. So I asked it to solve it, and they gave me the answer. So I could ask, keep asking for brain teasers. You could ask, tell me some riddles. Let's say you're giving a speech and you want a joke about the topics that you're talking about. Ask it to write you a joke about something. I mentioned before the NCAA. I asked this question after UConn won in 2024. It did not have the updated info. It gave me the last 10. So it had UConn, Kansas, Baylor, Virginia, Nova, North Carolina, Nova again, Duke again, and Connecticut again. So this is the type you can just go in and and ask these types of things. One of the things that we discovered, and in Copilot, also in the app, remove this, you'll see this, the microphone and the thing up here. You can ask, and rather than type the answer in, you can ask it. And I believe when you ask it, the response comes back in both text and voice to you. The camera, you can upload a photo and say, "What's this?" or "What can you tell me about this look?" This, and just send the photo. You can take a picture with your camera. So Diane is, as I mentioned, has become the Copilot junkie. Uh, Diane, share with us your recent experiences in terms of using the Copilot app and the photos.
Sure. Well, I wanted to go back quickly for a second because you were talking about the list of items for a meal. So I actually went in today because I wanted to see how this would come out because I facilitated a big reception Saturday. And I asked, make me an itemized list of how much I need for a reception of 75 guests for chicken piccata, rice pilaf, and mixed summer vegetables. And it literally told me how many pounds of chicken I would need, everything, like how much flour for the piccata, how much rice pilaf, how much butter, every single item. It gave me a measurement for 75 to make it for 75 people. I thought this is amazing. I mean, to the salt measurement, everything. So I'm like, yeah, I am so bought in. But I've, I've been using it. There's apps to take pictures of plants to identify, well, is this something you can eat or is this something that's like poison ivy? And I'm very big into gardening, and I've been going around with my, since Rob told me about the picture, the ability to use pictures or take pictures. I've been going around taking pictures and finding out some of the items that I have in my garden that I know I didn't plant. I'm not really sure what they came from, but and then talking about the garden, I'm just going to throw this in here, Rob. I had to call someone to ask them how to this is for real, how to calculate how much mulch I needed. I had an area, it's 90 feet long and it's 15 feet wide, and I needed 3 inches of mulch. And I have no clue. I can't do this kind of stuff. So I asked Copilot today, and Copilot told me exactly, it showed me what the calculations were, and it said, this is exactly how much mulch you need. And I was like, oh man, I spent like 45 minutes running around trying to find somebody that was gutsy enough to give me a final number of how much I needed, because they were afraid that I get a delivery and I get it, not get enough because you're paying for a truck to deliver mulch. So it said, here's the calculation. This is what you do. You got your square yardage and all that. That is my forte. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. I'm loving this.
Well, what I think is great about it is that you can download an app that tells you about plants. Take a picture of the plant, it tells you. You can do another one with birds, another one with snakes, another one with this. With the Copilot, you need one app. And basically you can after it gives you well, that's a such and such, you can ask more questions about that. Yep. And it'll keep giving you more detail.
There's links that you can, like when I was the mulch, now there were links. It's like, if you want rubber mulch, what's the best rubber mulch? If you want, you want to use hay and straw, if you want to do this, and you could click and it would make the calculations. And all of a sudden you're like, rubber mulch. Never thought about rubber mulch before. So you're being introduced to so much that you don't get when you're trying to Google.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've asked it, questions, and it gives you the sources of the information in the article. Because one of the things I found is, as I mentioned before, I'll ask questions to get a different way of explaining the subject matter. And it's been a couple times on financial topics that it's given me the wrong answer, particularly ChatGPT. And what's interesting with Copilot is down at the bottom, it has 4 to 5 to 6 different links where it got the information from. So on one, I was asking a question and I clicked then below. One of the sources was IRS, and it took me right to the bulletin and the IRS bulletin. Another one was the Federal Reserve, one of their article on one of their websites. And so you can find out how credible is the information, because sometimes I was told, like, ChatGPT doesn't differentiate between an ad information from an ad in the Wall Street Journal versus an editorial in the Wall Street Journal versus an actual article in the Wall Street Journal. So it gathers all this information, but it's not smart enough yet to filter out the ads from the editorial, from the other. So on stuff that's really critical to your thinking, make sure you do follow-up research or check with some. In fact, a lot of times they tell you check with an attorney on this. It's complicated. Check with this, but it gives you enough basic information that you know what you're talking about, and you know what that other person is going to speak with you, also speak with you about. But it's really the more you're doing, the more you find out it can do. So at
One
this point, if you go ahead,
I just
Diane.
want to jump in. Yes. So yes, my mom has a caregiver who is from Uzbekistan. She speaks Russian, and we speak through the translator on her telephone. She's a wonderful lady. She had medications, and my previous life being in the medical world, she wasn't feeling good now, and she showed me her medications, and everything was written in Russian. I was like, I can't help her. So I took my camera on my phone and I took a picture and asked to translate it to English, and then it translated to English, and then I knew exactly what the meds were, how she's supposed to take it, and I was like, "This really was great." And Rob had literally just told me, within hours that, this was available to do the translation and via the pictures. And so, it's like you could travel the world now and just use your chat. And I have it right on my phone. I'm just going to show them. It's on my phone. I love it. Just so you can see this. It's oh, I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it says Copilot. My finger's on it all day long. And a lot of stuff that I'm doing from Rob, I'm going there and I'm using it, and then I'm tweaking. It's never 100% of what you want, but I'm taking it. Sometimes I'm taking a couple different aspects from Chat GPT or Copilot, putting it together, and it just kind of helps you not to be in that repetitious mode of always using the same verbiage and everything, and diversifies, and it literally makes you look like you're thinking out of the box.
Yeah. And the graphic on the invitation that went out for this meeting, I think that was created on Copilot or ChatGPT.
Yep. Yes, it was. The button was, and the color coordinations and everything. Yeah, I did those on there.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you ask to create a picture on any of those, like in Copilot. If you go into Copilot and you say, create. In fact, I think here I did it over here. Create a picture of a okay, I just asked it to create a picture here, and it creates 4 all the time. And you can actually go in, pick one, and you can play around with it and make changes in there. You can change it to watercolor. You can change it to steampunk. You can say, I need a landscape version of that. I went back in because the one I got was kind of tropical. And so, well, that's coming off of there. I went back in and I asked. This one, as I said, had the tropical, and I then went back in. If I didn't ask for an illustration, so it gave me a list of all the beaches in New England. But I went back in, and I guess it didn't save that one. I asked it to create a beach in New England, and so basically, it created the beach. There was a button that said, "Would you like to add a lighthouse?" I clicked yes. It added a lighthouse to it. Then it asked, "Would you like to show it with stormy skies?" And so it took the same picture and it put clouds with lightning and these rushing waves coming in. So it's really interesting when the more you play around with it, the more you can find that it can do. And sometimes it's doing new things and you're discovering them as they're creating them. So at this point, before we close, let me open it up. If you have some questions that you'd like me to input in there, I'd be happy to do that just to see how quickly it happens, and Diane can pull some off if some come in.
Hey, we had one from our last meeting. I think it was our evening meeting, and I was wondering maybe you could put this in because we thought this was funny. The question was, give me a recipe for apple pie without apples.
Did we do that in ChatGPT? I can't remember if we did that in ChatGPT or Copilot. Oh, here we go. And this person was surprised that they kind of put it in expecting that it would come back and say, you can't do that. So
Right.
this is how fast it fills in. It even tells you to preheat the oven to this.
Does it say,
Uh,
does it have this, does it
oh,
have what it's used to substitute the apples?
okay, let's see. And let's see if it does if it's similar to the same thing. Let's see.
There's like no filling. Last week it was
Yeah, with
zucchini.
the zucchini last
They
week.
used zucchini.
Crust,
Yeah,
the
I don't
filling.
see anything in there.
This is actually looks almost like a different recipe than because
Yeah,
last week's had zucchini and all into it. This
yeah,
one has Ritz crack. The last week's was healthier. Um,
yeah,
and maybe we did it in Copilot last week. I'm not sure.
yeah,
But here was an example where you didn't think it would produce a result, and it
mhm,
did.
yeah.
There. Diane,
I
any
do.
questions in there?
I do have one. Can you write jokes for young children?
Oop, I spelled wrong, but maybe it'll know what I'm saying.
Spell right wrong.
Why did the teddy bear say no to dessert? Because it was already stuffed. But you could probably
Okay.
say, write a joke about a pug. Well, that could be any breed, I guess. Why did the pug sit in the shade? Because it didn't want to be a hot dog.
Didn't want to be a hot dog.
There was one from last one, which I think was it was asking, I think, what was a good exercise program for a 65-year-old?
Yeah.
And
What are good exercises for a 65-year-old? Yes.
it was really detailed,
Yep.
and then finished up by saying, consult
Consult
your
your
doctor.
physician.
The best exercise program is dependent on your current physical situation, blah, blah, blah. So it's best to after it gives you all this information, but it gave you a variety of different types of indoor, outdoor, with
Mhm.
equipment, without equipment. I mean, it went into pretty good detail,
It
on
did.
that.
It did. Yep. It did. I have a joke here. It's funny there was a joke. I have a joke here because I was looking at this. It says, apart from cheese, what else can you ask a mouse to say to get a smile?
Now you could dictate that in too, right?
Apart from cheese, what else can you ask a mouse to say to get a smile?
Certainly. How about this? Why did the mouse bring a suitcase to the party?
Because it wanted to pack a little extra cheese. I don't know. I don't get it.
And that one, yeah, that one's not as good as the teddy bear one.
No, no, it's not. But I mean, you never know what it's going to say. And the other thing that you also learn the more you use it is how to word things to get what you want it to say, the direction you want it to go. Right? Like when you were talking about the beard, removing the beard and the hair and everything. Sometimes it's just we're saying something and it's not triggering the thought on Copilot or Chat GPT of the direction we're trying to go. So, but it's a lot of fun. You could come up with trivia, like Rob said, trivia questions. Sometimes when the ladies that are on, we go to these baby showers or wedding showers, and you're always looking, now what is this? Create a Croatian itinerary.
Okay, I hope you're going for 10 days. Day one, arrive in Zagreb. Day two in Zagreb. Then Lakes National Park, Zadar, Split. Last minute shopping, departure for the airport.
Was that
Looks like
is that Chat GPT or is
yeah,
that Copilot?
this is Chad. Let's just go to the other one
Because
quickly.
Copilot's going to give you more on the bottom. That's why I like Copilot.
Well, and somebody that's into AI told me always be polite. I don't know why. I don't know why. Please create an
Croatian itinerary. Yeah.
itinerary for, let's do it consistent, for a 10-day trip to Croatia.
Yeah, and there's a little microphone there, so you can actually just
Oh
click
yeah,
there and say
I
it.
could have said it right here. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But I said okay and overrode my, oh no, they're still giving me the 10-day trip. Interesting. The first trip started in Zagreb. This one ends in Zagreb. But down here, as you can see, they list a bunch of looks like pictures. Well, they even gave you a picture up here of Croatia. I don't know if they give you, yeah, they gave you several pictures of Croatia.
And then there's more items below.
Yeah, what are some attractions in Dubrovnik? Can you recommend any local dishes to try? How do I get around Croatia efficiently? So let's see. Can you recommend any local dishes? They give you a map. They list some restaurants. Everything's closed, so I guess it's nighttime over there already, or early morning. They give you Croatia travel guides as reference points. So just have fun with it. And again, before signing off, just to remind you, and I gotta throw up the final slide before we sign off. But basically, to get into Copilot, it's just bing.com. To get into ChatGPT, just start typing ChatGPT. You can type it either into your Google bar if you're using Chrome, or just type it into the website, and it will autofill right into the website. And I think, Diane, the same thing with the app. You went to the Play Store, typed in Copilot,
Yes.
and then picked it. So if you're on Apple Store or
Yes.
or the Play Store for Google or Android, just download the app, and that one app will substitute for tons of your other apps that may be taking up a lot of space on your board. So let me just advance to the final slide here, and close up with this. Compliance makes me stay on task, and since we are recording this for future use, so let me stop my share and do the other share. Okay, so basically, one of the things they talk about is if you have seniors that are alone, can't get out, they're finding it's a great therapy tool for seniors that are confined to a home, don't have a lot of people visiting, can't leave the home. And so it's a tool that can be both entertaining and educational. And as I mentioned, there's a whole host of things that ChatGPT can do. Your imagination is the limit to what this can do. And every time you think, oh, it's not going to be able to answer this, and occasionally you'll get an answer that they're not able to answer for whatever reason. Diane, yesterday when we first talked about the camera thing, took a picture of the pen on her desk and said, "What is this?" And they said it was a red pen, which it was. And so then she asked, "Who's the manufacturer of the pen?" And they said, we can't tell who made the pen by just looking at it. Afterwards, she said, well, maybe if I turned it around and they saw the label on the lapel thing, they would have been able to tell you. And then you could say, well, tell us more about that company. But try it out. It's great. Bing.com and ChatGPT.com, and it's a lot of fun. You can help grandchildren with their homework. If they ask you, oh, I got to do this type of homework, I got to write a report on this, and you know nothing about it, you can become educated to be able to help them. And just checking, Diane, just check one last time in the questions, make sure no additional questions are added.
Let me see. Nope.
Okay.
We have a quiet crew.
Well, thanks so much for attending. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you have a lot of fun in the future with Copilot and ChatGPT. It's amazing what these two items can do, and for free, right? At least right now. Don't buy the cost item. If you find out you're using it more than what it can do for you. I haven't reached that point yet, and I've been using it since the beginning of the year. I'm still using the free versions on both, but have fun, and appreciate you attending, and hope to see you all at our next one. Take care.